listeners. Welcome to Homeless in San Diego. I am not your usual host, Greg Angel. I am the faith liaison for Interfaith Community Services, Mitchell Snow, filling in for our podcast today, along with our guest, Ernie Alvarez. Welcome to the podcast, Ernie.
Thank you,
Uh,
Mitchell.
Love for you to introduce yourself, let our listeners know who you are, and what brings you here with us today.
As Mitchell said, my name's Ernie Alvarez. I'm currently president of an organization called Pace TV Productions, and we do productions on 501c3s throughout San Diego County. And somebody asked me what our purpose was, what we do, and we were just discussing that on the way over. And I said, I think what it is we try and put light on 501c3s that people may not know about.
Hmm.
We find a lot of little 501c3s that don't have a lot of publicity, that people don't know a lot about. And we give them a show, and it's been working out for us. We've been doing this for about 45 years. We have done over 1,000 shows, and we're all seniors over 55. And we do probably a show a month, if not more. And we're on, I always tell people we're on almost 6 nights a week somewhere in the county. We're on Cox and Spectrum and Del Mar and downtown. So that's it.
And if
That's
people
us.
wanted to watch you, where can they find you?
We put out a schedule, but if you go to our website, which is Pace-TV Productions, it will come up and you can see our shows there, or it'll direct you to the YouTube channel that we're also on. So you can find our shows on YouTube.
Well, great. And you had an opportunity. One of the ways that you and I had a chance to get to know each other was in talking about an event that Interfaith had put on called an Empathy Builder. So, would you like to share a little bit about what interested you about that event?
Well, I think because I think for a lot of people, and I know for me, um, people being homeless is the result of some almost catastrophic thing. It has to be something huge, a divorce or a death in the family or hospitalization or something like that. But in going through the materials that I got from the Empathy Builder sessions you guys had at your annual meeting, and then the discussion that you and Logan and I had, I came to the realization that it isn't necessarily something huge. If you're struggling, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have to have a catastrophe. All you have to do is have one of the kids get sick, you get sick, you can't go to work, you're not getting paid. And if you are set up to make sure that that paycheck comes in every 2 weeks or once a month or whatever you get paid, and that check is short, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take very much for uh, that was another thing that I got out of that was you mentioned that these people have a plan. You have to have a plan. You have to know how you're going to manage every month. But it doesn't take much for that plan to be kicked into the trash can
Hmm.
and for you to say, okay, mama, what are we going to do? Because you didn't work this week. We don't have that paycheck. And how are we going to get enough to feed the kids?
Yeah. And for our listeners, I'll contextualize a little bit what we do with that Empathy Builder and that annual meeting that you had an opportunity to participate in. Uh, it's essentially a month in the life of someone who's going through extreme poverty. Where our participants had the opportunity to come to this meeting and over the course of a few hours, put themselves into someone else's shoes. They were all given roles that they were able to act out, and the space that we were in had tables throughout that represented different services that people who are in poverty are in need of. And then each family or individual creates their plan for how they get through that month with being able to pay all their bills, being able to get to work on time, get their kids in school if they have kids as part of the role playing experience. And ideally, at the end of it, we have a conversation about what it takes to get through a month. And it's a unique opportunity to give those who may not have thought about the experience of being in poverty and the hoops that you may need to jump through to access the services and supports, the challenges that can come up in creating a plan and acting it out. It's an opportunity for them to really evaluate their own biases, evaluate their perspective, and come out of it thinking about how they can show more compassion to their neighbor. And so that's the experience that you got to be a part of, so that our listeners know a little bit more about what that empathy builder looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found most interesting was you have certain things that have value and you could take them to the pawn shop. And so you might get 20 bucks or 50 bucks or whatever he thinks the thing is worth. But when I looked at the materials again, one of the things that I saw that just blew me away was payments to the pawnbroker. And and I thought, wait a minute, payments to the pawnbroker. Why would you be making payments to the pawnbroker? And of course, then the reality struck, oh no, these people are not selling this thing. They're hawking it with the hope that at the end of the month or the 60 days or 90 days, whatever their contract is for redeeming that thing, is that they'll be able to buy it back, but they have to make monthly payments. So now they have another payment on top of utilities and food and gasoline for the car and insurance and all the other things that are there. And then, yeah, we hawked that big TV that we didn't think we needed, but if we want it back, we got to pay for it.
Yeah,
So you're buying it again.
and it's one of the sobering things about the empathy builder itself is, yes, for our participants, and we have about 60 that go through it each time that we do it. Uh, for those participants, it's just about getting through that 1 month. And so it creates a, yes, it puts you in someone else's shoes, but you're also able to get out of those shoes at the end of the experience. Whereas if you were to think, yes, we got through this month, but could we get through the next one? Did we properly prepare ourselves to then be able to do this all over again with the next one? And for many, that's where the answer is honestly probably not, because we no longer have this iPod that we can pawn at the pawn shop. We no longer have the same resources that we had to start that first month when we started the empathy building experience. And that's the reality check for many of our folks who go through it. It's not that they couldn't get through that 1 month. It's that they probably wouldn't be able to get through two.
Yeah, I think that is the startling realization is that it's not just this month. I mean, because if at the end of the month you thought, well, I'm going to get $10,000, so then I'm going to be good. That's great. But if you're still going to face the same things next month as you did this month, and then the month after that, and the month after that, and the month after that, that's got to be so grinding,
Mhm.
just to think, okay, dear, we got through this month, but it's going to be the first in another week. We got to start all over again. And, Timmy's sick again with another ear infection. He's going to be out of school. One of us has got to miss work because we can't take him to daycare, whatever the situation is. Yeah, I just, I explained to you and Logan when we were talking is I've been there.
Mhm.
I know what it was like when I was first married and had kids. And it's like, it just grinds on you. Yeah, there's like you think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but you're afraid it's a train,
Mhm.
because it doesn't take much. Doesn't it, again, it isn't any major catastrophe. It isn't a large thing. It can just be one of the kids being sick. A- And what do you do because you can't go to work and you're not going to get paid because you don't have any sick days or you don't have any personal time off. You don't work, you don't get paid. It's that simple.
Yeah, and it's not as simple as, well, if you're not getting paid enough, just go out and find another job, because that's its own challenge, especially in a climate like ours with finding work. That you can't just take the risk of going out and finding other work to do, because that doesn't, it's not a guarantee that you'll
Mhm,
find
mhm.
success when you take that risk. And so many people who are living in extreme poverty are operating with very little safety net, and have to make decisions on a regular basis about, how do I make sure I feed my family? How do I make sure I keep the lights on? And then how do I make sure that at the end of the month, we're able to do this all over again?
Yeah, yeah, for month after month after month. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
And one of the things that I enjoy about seeing people go through that empathy building experience is the understanding that they get over time about the value of community, the value of connection, not just to your neighbors, but also to the services that are in place. There are many people who are going through poverty who might not have the awareness of all the services that might be out there, but who also might not have that uh, relationship wherewithal to know what resources that they might be able to connect with if they can maintain the relationships that they do have in their lives. And we had a chance to talk before about some of your past relationships and supports that you've experienced that have helped you get to where you are today. I don't know if you'd feel comfortable sharing a little bit about that today. You certainly don't have to, but if you wanted to share,
Well, if I can get through it, because I
yeah,
couldn't get through it the last time. But yeah, I had a brother that would help out every once in a while. Uh, I never did know how he knew that we were in a jam, but he would uh, come through with a check, and it was like, oh my gosh, a lot of money. It was a big help, but not everybody has that kind of familial support either. I mean, when you think about it, it's like, a lot of these people are estranged from their families, or their families are not in a position to help. So they don't have a brother that can send them $100 now and then, or, anything to help out, because they may be struggling themselves. And if you are someone who doesn't have an education or a specific set of skills, I don't even know how you you find a job. Like you said, how do you find another job if you have no skill set? You can't say, "Oh, I'm a plumber," or I've been an electrician," or "I've done this," or "I've done that." And, well, what have you done? Well, I was a janitor at the school. Well, we're not looking for janitors right now. That's all you've got. Yeah, we don't need any more janitors. So yeah, I just can't even imagine. Like I said, for me, I was lucky, and I broke into a field that I didn't even know about when I was in high school. And I was programming, and became a programmer, and was a programmer for 35 years. But I was just very, very fortunate. And not everybody's fortunate enough to be in that kind of situation where that sort of thing just dropped into my lap. And it was like, yeah, okay, I'll take a flyer and see what it's like. And 35 years later, I left the job making tremendous amount of money, and it was great. But what do you do if you don't have that skill set, or you don't get that opportunity to get into that kind of field where you don't have at the point when I went in back in the early 60s, the late 60s, early 70s, there was very little training for technical people. And now you can go to any any university, any even junior colleges will teach you how to program. That's what you want to do. So, but for me, it was just flat luck that I got it and was able to do it. And not and that's the other thing, you might get an opportunity, but if you don't have the skill set to make that work, so what if they're going to offer you, $80,000 a year or whatever? If you get in and can't do it, gee, I'm sorry, Ernie, but you're just not cut that. So we're going to have to let you go. Now you're back to doing what? So
yeah, it's that combination of opportunity and availability, and then that desire to go out and do it, and that can be uh, easy to miss how much many of us rely on good fortune. It can seem like luck to end up in the positions that we are in, and how sobering it can be to know that a little bit of bad luck can make all the difference for so many people who are really living at that poverty line, just one hiccup away from a much worse circumstance. And we'll talk a little bit more about that after a short break. All right, welcome back to the podcast. We are talking with Ernie about our empathy builder that he had the opportunity to experience at our recent annual meeting. And that empathy builder happens. essentially in two parts. The first part being where people spend some time going through a month in the life of someone experiencing extreme poverty, and that happens with each week being broken up into 10 minutes at a time. So it's a fast week, and it moves very quickly as our participants go through that month. But then afterwards, that's where what I would consider the most valuable part of the experience comes in. And that's where we invite our participants to sit at their tables and talk about what stood out to them from going through the empathy builder. What were the challenges that they faced? What were the key takeaways that they had from being part of this experience? And then also, what are the next steps? And so let's talk a little bit about what that debrief experience was for you, because it's really, in my opinion, the most valuable part of that empathy builder day in the life experience.
Well, I think one of the things that it is probably very difficult for the people that are participating in Empathy Builder. You get a view of what it might be like. The only problem is those people will walk out of the door and not live that life. But for the people that are living that life, they're in it, and they are in it for the long haul, because unless something happens where they get a break like I did and get a great opportunity to go into a wonderful career that, will certainly pay all the bills, next month they're going to face the same thing. They're going to have the same paycheck. They're going to have the same number of kids. They're going to have the still need to raise enough money to buy food to feed their family. And as I've always said, it's okay for you to deal with the fact that there's not enough food in the house. And so many of these people that I've seen interviewed say, well, I'm the mother or I'm the father. So it's okay for me to go without. I can go without a meal, but I can't tell my kids they can't eat. That's the reality, is that someone is having to do without because there is not enough money to make sure everybody has everything they need. And that's what this whole exercise is about, is to realize that this is what these people live with day in and day out every single month.
Yeah.
And it doesn't end just because we got through this month and we got $5 left over at the end of the month. Doesn't mean next month we're going to have $5 left over. It could be that something happens and we're now $105 in the hole.
Yeah.
So
And
that's,
planning is hard enough when you know all the variables. When you're trying to come up with a plan to support your family, to support yourself, to hopefully increase your income, sometimes maintain your stable housing, it can be hard enough to have a plan when you know everything that might come up. But there are so many unexpected circumstances that you can't necessarily plan for, and oftentimes can come up at the worst times. Right now, we're leading up to Christmas. And you were talking a little bit about the challenge of a parent right now, trying to support their family, trying to uh, make the holidays special, and the challenge that they might face at having saved a certain amount of money at the end of the month to be able to give their kids a gift and a special holiday. But then that might be that time that you get a parking ticket or a just any sort of ticket on the street, that you have an unexpected cost that comes up that you didn't prepare for, that could change your holiday.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And it, again, it's so hard to explain to children that, yeah, everybody else got presents, all your friends got something, but we can't afford to buy you anything. I mean, it's just a concept that is so hard for them to understand. It's like, but everybody got presents. It's Christmas. We're supposed to get something special. But yeah, but I'm sorry, but Mitchell, we don't have the money. We can't afford to go buy you a new bike or whatever it is that you think everybody else is getting for Christmas. And kids might understand that in a sense, but again, it's has to be very, very painful. It has to be. I know it is. It's painful to the parents to have to say, "Gee, I'm sorry, but we can't buy that that special thing for you because daddy got a ticket, or we need the money to pay the pawnbroker for the iPod that we hawked, and the payment's coming due, and I got to make that, otherwise the iPod is gone and we won't get that back.
Mm.
So
And we even
yeah,
had a circumstance come up during our empathy builder, just because of the context of what was happening in our world at the time, where for one of the weeks we cut off EBT and food stamps, because that was a circumstance that many people were facing at that time. Where if you had budgeted to have that, say, $80 for that final week of the year, you didn't have that anymore. And they had to figure out how they were going to navigate that. And that's the reality that we face in our current world, is there are unexpected things that come up all the time. Uh, that when you're in a situation where you're planning to the last dollar
the last
each
50
month, that
cents.
last 50 cents, it makes it really difficult when those unexpected challenges do arise.
Yeah.
And we had the opportunity at the empathy builder that you experienced to hear from people who had lived experience, who had gone through life as clients of Interfaith, and then they had agreed to come to this empathy builder experience. And they brought up afterwards, for one, it's a very real situation that resonated with them, that it was a challenge that they had faced to navigate all of these hoops and understanding of different resources. But you just hope that you hit that light at the end of the tunnel, and you hope that you can give others that hope through the resources that are available and through sharing knowledge. And I think that was one of the takeaways for many at the end of the empathy builder, was how do we share with people the resources that are available so that they feel that they have a safety net, so that they feel that they have support from their neighbor. And for you, what did you see as the most valuable next steps from being in that experience?
I won't go there first.
Yeah.
One of the things that you brought up, and one of the things that we talked about a little bit, is there are services available, but in some instances, you have to go to the place to get to put in your application, or to explain your situation, or to apply whatever it takes. And one of the things that could be uh, stopping you or crippling your ability to do that is you don't have any gas in your car, or you don't have a car, and you got to take the bus. And how do you do that when you're supposed to be working? So if it's you have to be there between 8 and 4, well, that's great, but I have to be at work at 7 and I don't get off until 5. How do you get there? How do you even apply for that aid if you can't get there?
Yeah.
Because you can't write them a letter and say, hey, please send me, $50. You got to go in and you got to apply for it. But the other thing then is that with this empathy builder, if people would just, I think, get an understanding of how difficult it is for these people to do this every single month.
Yeah.
Because again, for the majority of them, there's not a basket of cash waiting, like a prize. Or if I get through this month, oh, then I'm going to have a big cash bucket at the end of the month, and then we're going to be set. No, 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 no. You're going to get through this month. Next month's going to be exactly the same, if not worse. And then the month after that, and the month after that, and the month after that. And it's so much of what just has to be so grinding on these people, because that's what you're facing. And you, again, if you've got kids and your kids are, I mean, kids always need something, whether it's shoes, or, a new shirt, or a new pair of pants, or whatever. I mean, kids grow. If your kids always stayed the same, it'd be great because you could just, you know,
Yeah, I've
keep
got
the
an
same
almost
thing.
5-year-old at home. Kids are expensive,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
those costs don't go away.
Yeah, yeah. When you got little kids, I mean, you got babies, you're talking diapers, you're talking formula, all those things that cost money. And you can't just, go to the corner and somebody's handing out diapers. You got to go somewhere that, like Interfaith, where they have diapers, other food banks that have now are stocking up diapers because they know diapers cost a lot of money. They're stocking formula because formula costs money. And again, if the government decides to cut off some program, these people suffer tremendously. And it's like, it isn't just $5. Sometimes these people are getting, three or $400 to help them make it because without that, say, I'm sorry, they're just going to go hungry. They got to figure something else out because that money is not it's not a luxury. It's a critical thing to
And it's
their
interesting because those decisions have ripple effects too.
yeah,
So you have to make a decision, like so many, if they're faced with uh, feed my kids or feed myself, they're going to feed their kids.
yep, yep,
And good on them for feeding
yeah,
their kids. But also, how many people make their best decisions and do their best planning when they're hungry?
yeah,
And that's a
yeah,
ripple effect that comes from
mhm,
that decision they have to make each month.
yeah,
And we think a lot about, and you and I have talked about this before, the challenge that comes with planning when you're struggling and when you're going through something traumatic. And the reality is that the part of your brain that shuts off when you're going through trauma is the part of your brain that does that long-term planning. And so many within the community can ask, why can't people just create a plan, pull themselves up by their bootstraps and move forward? When the reality is you're just focused on survival. You're just focused on getting to that next, sometimes not even month, sometimes just getting to that next day.
yeah,
And it becomes very difficult to create a plan. And like you said, it's that grind of, yeah, you get through that month, you got to do it all over again. You feel like Sisyphus rolling a boulder up a hill, never to reach the top.
yeah,
And that's what day to day life can look like. And the empathy builder doesn't necessarily paint that picture for the people who participate in it because they're done at the end of that hour going through the experience. But that's why having the opportunity to then talk about it and to debrief and think about the long term ramifications of all of the decisions that you may have made over the course of that month. Uh, that's why that's so valuable to be able to break it down and think, what does this mean for me? Not just for this month that I went through, but for the next month that I'll have to plan for, and that next month after that. Just like you said, not knowing if there's a jackpot waiting for you at the end of the year that might help you have a much easier time in the future. You
yeah.
just don't know.
Yeah, what is that brings me back to something that you and I and Logan had talked about before, and that was um, to see someone buying scratchers,
Mm,
and I've really thought about that a lot, and to think, well, I mean, there's somebody who's homeless, but they're going to take their last $5 and they're going to go into a store and they're going to buy a scratcher. Now, that doesn't seem to make much sense, but your hope is that you're going to win $100. Because you could win $100, you could win $1,000. I mean, I've seen where you could win $250,000. You got to have hope. That's the only thing that can keep you going is that you're hoping that at some point you're going to break out of this, and at some point you're going to get to the point where you don't have to deal with this anymore. That
yeah.
you're going to find that job or like I said, you're going to get that scratcher and really use your brain because now you're not suffering the trauma of trying to figure out how you're going to eat and make that money really work for you and be able to make a better life for your wife and your kids whatever your familiar situation is
Yeah,
but
and the instinct when you see someone using their the little resources that they have in that way, the immediate instinct is judgment.
yeah yeah
And what
what
we
an
hope that
idiot
people get
yeah
from something like the empathy builder is that the instinct can become compassion
yeah
and that the instinct can be to look at what that situation means to someone else and give them grace.
yeah
And we'll talk a little bit more about those next steps after we take another break. And welcome back. We're on with Ernie, and we're talking a little bit about our empathy builder. And let's start thinking about those next steps that we kind of teased a little bit earlier. When people go through that debrief experience, that all ends in the couple hours that we have together doing the empathy builder. But then you have to think of where do we go from here? What is this? What are our next steps that we do? And for you, what did that thought process look like?
well I've been thinking about that because you broached this subject earlier. I think one of the things that I took from this that I thought was just like mind blowing is you called it an empathy builder. And that's what you're hoping that you're going to create in people's minds. Be empathetic. Don't be judgmental. You know, it's so easy to say, "Oh, that guy's a bum. He's probably on drugs. He's probably an alcoholic. And yeah, you're just wasting his life." You have no idea what that person has been through. And for each of them, I remember I did an interview with Greg, and we were talking about that. And I said, "Is there any one thing that you could say for all of these people that are unhoused rather than homeless, but unhoused, that is the same?" And he said, "No." He said, "If you took 100, there was probably 98 reasons why they are where they are. You know, could have been an illness, could have been a divorce, could have been drugs, could have been just the grind of trying to make it every month that just wears you down to where there's nothing left. You have no ability to get up and say, okay, well, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going." And you just say, for what? So I can do it again next month? So I can do it next week? So I can do it tomorrow? And it's like, yeah, I'd rather just stand on the corner and get change, and maybe people give me a couple of bucks and I can do whatever. But yeah, it just to really build empathy is what this whole thing was about. Get an understanding of what that are not like you, particularly if you have a good job and you have a nice house and you can pay all your bills. And if you get an extra large utility bill, it's not like, oh my God, how am I going to pay this? It's like, okay, so it's $50 more this month than it was last month. Write the check, honey, and pay it off, and we still got plenty of money. That's what you're looking for, is you're looking for people to understand and be empathetic.
Yeah, and so often people think you're either empathetic or you're not. You're either compassionate or you're not. But the truth of the matter is you can practice those values. You can practice building your empathy. You can put an effort and an intentionality into showing compassion for other people. And what we hope people get out of the empathy builder is that understanding that if they're intentional about it, they can get better at understanding other people's circumstances. Sometimes you just need to make purposeful and intentional decisions to see things from someone else's view. I'll share before we talk about our uh, thoughts and our call to action that we end with. I'll share a little story from when I was growing up. So, my dad and I had been going to lunch at a KFC here in Escondido, and outside of the KFC was a gentleman asking for money, and he said, "I want money to buy food." And I was probably about 10 years old at the time, and it's an intimidating thing for a 10-year-old to see someone on the street come up and ask for money. And my dad told him, "I can't give you money today, but if you want to join us for lunch, you can." And if giving the man money seemed intimidating to me, having him join us for lunch seemed downright scary. But it was a very impactful thing for me to then have this person join us and sit down and share a meal. My dad allowed him to order whatever he wanted to order off the menu and then had him sit down. And we just, for me, I just sat there in silence and listened. But my dad asked him questions about who he was and his journey up to that point, and took the opportunity to treat him like a person, an individual, as opposed to just some uh, random person on the street.
Yeah.
And as a 10-year-old, that was so pivotal in forming my value system that I carried with me through life. And I think what we hope in this empathy builder is that people will take those opportunities to, instead of judging their neighbor, getting to know their neighbor. Uh, and so we end the podcast. I'm not the one who typically introduces this topic. It's usually Greg. But in his absence, I'll say we always end with a call to action from whoever our guest is, something that our listeners can focus on doing and trying to accomplish in response to our conversation today. So, Ernie, for today, do you have a call to action for our listeners of what they can do in response to what we've discussed?
Yeah, actually, I have two. When I borrowed from you guys, so I'll have to admit it wasn't an original thought, but and that was to remember next time you want to complain about homeless people. Uh, is that from you guys? Charity seeks to remedy today what justice could have prevented yesterday. And so my call to action is if you want to complain about the homeless people and what's going on, write to your representative, write to your senator, ask them what they're doing. How are they dealing with the situation? Because it's a situation that has to be done dealt with nationally. We can't just do it at the local level, though we do a lot. Interfaith does tremendous work. But so much can be done at the federal level. And we seem to be going backwards. Instead of doing more, we seem to be doing less. And then the second one is to remember, in the words of a Joan Baez song, "Where but for fortune go you or I."
Mm.
That very easily could be you or I. We just got breaks. We just got lucky. We just hit the right place at the right time, opened the right door, turned right and not left. But you or I could be there very easily. I know I could have been in my early years, like I explained earlier, could very easily have wound up trying to figure out how to feed my kids and maintain keeping the shelter and all of the things that these people are dealing with. So yeah, be empathetic because that's what this is all about. Learn to be empathetic.
Yeah.
Don't be, like you said, don't be so quick to judge, but just understand that you have no way of knowing how those people got there, you know, and unless you are willing to do like your dad and sit down and share a meal and listen to their stories, you will never ever know what happened. You'll never ever even be able to say, well, yeah, but I mean, he had a chance. I mean, he could have done this or he could have done that. But you don't know. You don't know what that person's been through. All you can do is be empathetic and think of some way that you can help.
I really appreciate having you on today, Ernie. For our listeners, if they're looking for ways that they can engage in supporting the work that Interfaith does, they're always welcome to check out our current volunteer opportunities that are on our website under the Get Involved tab. But we always love to create opportunities for people to put action behind their desires to see change in our society. So thank you so much, Ernie, for
My
being here
pleasure.
today. And it was a pleasure to have a conversation with you.
Thank you very much.